From an early age, I was aware that I was destined to become the crown prince's consort upon reaching maturity. On the day of my coming-of-age ceremony, a decree echoed through the palace, proclaiming that the crown prince would arrive at the Song residence with a royal edict of marriage, personally bestowing upon me the title of primary consort. However, the ceremony had concluded, and the guests waited in vain, yet the crown prince still did not make his appearance. It is rumored that this delay is due to the crown prince's cherished confidant, the renowned courtesan Su Nyong from the Red Sleeve Pavilion. That morning, she donned a garment of pure white and, cradling a treasure chest, knelt before the gates of the Eastern Palace, declaring that she had redeemed herself from the Red Sleeve Pavilion and wished to see the crown prince one last time before departing. Su Nyong fainted in front of the Eastern Palace, while the crown prince was preoccupied with summoning the imperial physician, having entirely forgotten about my coming-of-age ceremony. My mother was deeply troubled, exclaiming, "What shall we do? Our marriage with the royal family has long been arranged." I sighed heavily. Since the crown prince has chosen to withdraw from our engagement, I must resign myself to marrying his majesty in the palace. "Miss, it is dire news. The crown prince will not be coming. He has taken that lady into the East Palace. And now the esteemed physicians of the Imperial Hospital have been summoned. It is said that the young lady named Susu knelt before the East Palace all night just to catch a glimpse of the crown prince, and in doing so, she injured her head, bleeding profusely. This morning, upon exiting the palace, the crown prince found her unconscious. My devoted maid, Huar, burst in, her eyes red with anger, informing me that the crown prince has forsaken my coming-of-age ceremony for the sake of a courtesan. The noble women and ladies gathered to congratulate me on my coming-of-age whispered amongst themselves, incredulous. Could it be true? Today is Song Zhao's coming-of-age day. Yet the crown prince does not attend? Did not his majesty promise a marriage? You are not aware? Just days prior, news circulated that the courtesan Su had a fierce quarrel with the madam of the establishment, using a fortune to redeem herself. Declaring her intent to seek out the crown prince. That Su is no meek maiden, I assure you. Zhao hails from a prestigious family. How could she compete with her? What will become of Miss Song? The betrothal between the Song family and the crown prince has long been established. How could he dare to disgrace them on her coming-of-age day? The chancellor is nearly apoplectic. The once grand coming-of-age ceremony concluded in haste, and I, the sole daughter of the chancellor, Song Zhao, overnight transformed from the envy of many into a defeated rival of a courtesan, becoming the subject of ridicule throughout the capital. The turmoil caused by the crown prince has incensed my father, and the entire family awaits his arrival at the chancellor's estate for an explanation. Yet, unexpectedly before he arrives, his confidant appears first. That young lady, Susu, clad in delicate gauze, her skirt billowing and her head bandaged, appeared pitiable. She knelt before the chancellor's residence, pleading for an audience. "It is all my fault. I have disrupted Miss Song's coming-of-age ceremony. I come today to apologize. Please do not harbor anger towards the crown prince. If punishment is to be meted out, let it fall solely upon me." She knelt gracefully, her delicate figure seeming as though it might fracture with a gentle bend, while onlookers filled the street, drawn by the spectacle. The men, in their chivalry, lamented, "Ah, it is only natural for a man to have many wives and concubines, especially a crown prince. Such a rare beauty, this Susu, one cannot help but feel sympathy for her. Miss Song should be more magnanimous. Oh, how heart-wrenching it is to see her, still wounded, kneeling here. Should she continue, she might faint again. This grand estate of the chancellor seems only to bully the weak." A few ladies, unable to bear it any longer, scoffed, "This vixen dares to come here and make a scene. Were I Miss Song, I would strike her dead." Bah! A courtesan, skilled in such tricks, crying for whose pity? It is but a performance for all to see. The esteemed Miss Song, a lady of high birth, ensnared by such a person. What a misfortune! Upon hearing the news, my mother was nearly overcome with rage, on the verge of an outburst, when I quickly restrained her. "Mother, since she has come for me, allow me to handle this." I donned a veil and emerged at the estate's entrance. She, with tears streaming down her face, pleaded with the gatekeeper. "Dear sir, I implore you to relay my message. I only seek Miss Song's forgiveness for the crown prince. I truly did not intend to disrupt their engagement. Miss, Please choose your words carefully. I interrupted her lamentation, concealed behind my veil. She gazed at my sudden appearance, momentarily taken aback. I approached slowly. My coming-of-age ceremony is well known throughout the city, and you, having spent years at Hongxiuzhou, know countless dignitaries. Surely you are aware of any significant happenings. Yet, you chose yesterday to create this uproar. What do you think you can deceive others with, when you cannot deceive me? Furthermore, Miss Susu, I have not been betrothed to the Crown Prince. A young lady's reputation is paramount. I beseech you to refrain from speculating about my relationship with him. Have you not considered that your antics today might place the Crown Prince in an awkward position? He is the heir to the throne. How can he be the subject of gossip on the streets? Susu, pale-faced, crawled closer. No, Miss Song. I only learned yesterday that the Crown Prince intended to come to the Chancellor's estate to deliver the edict, but I, in my weakness, fainted in the East Palace, thus delaying his arrival. It is all my fault. I took a deep breath looking at her. Since you understand that the Crown Prince was indeed supposed to come, and that he dared to delay the Emperor's decree for your sake, this is a grave offense. What use is it to ask for my forgiveness, Miss Susu? I advise you to tread carefully. Should this matter spiral out of control, even the Crown Prince may not be able to protect you. My words caused Susu to collapse in fear. Song Zhao, that is enough. A man interrupted. It was the Crown Prince, Xie Yanzhou, clad in a bright yellow dragon robe. He lifted the kneeling Susu and furrowed his brow at me. Is it because I did not attend your coming-of-age ceremony that you have chosen to torment her so? She is merely a frail woman, feeling guilt for yesterday's events, and has come to apologize. I had not anticipated, Song Zhao, that you would be so aggressive. It was I who delayed the edict. If you have grievances, direct them at me. Is it that yesterday's events left you feeling humiliated in front of others, and now you harbor resentment toward Susu? Our engagement is understood between our families. Why must you put on an act here? Susu, a wanderer without support, is a pitiful soul, and I have resolved to take her into the East Palace, granting her a place to belong. In future, do not bully her again, or I shall not spare you. Upon hearing this, my mother, who had just stepped outside, turned pale with fury and exclaimed, Your Highness, my daughter has never had any engagement with you, nor has she received any command from her parents or a matchmaker. How can you claim it is understood? Today, you bring a courtesan into our home to humiliate my daughter. Do you believe the Song family to be without defenders? Just as the Crown Prince was about to retort, Susu clutched his arm, her eyes red. Your Highness, please do not argue with the Chancellor's wife over me. What if the Emperor finds out and punishes you? Susu requires no title. She desires only a shred of your compassion to be content. I scoffed. Miss Susu and the Crown Prince share such deep affections. Why not retreat to a private life together instead of causing a scene at the Song residence? The Crown Prince's face flushed. Song Zhao, I am merely trying to show you respect. Do not overstep. Susu is humbly begging you. What more could you want? With righteous indignation, the Crown Prince defended Susu, who appeared delicate and pitiful. I pinched my hand within my sleeve, tears welling. As a chaste maiden, you come here to humiliate me without cause. Believing your status as Crown Prince grants you the right to act as you please? This humiliation is unbearable. I would rather perish. Mother, I shall repay your kindness in my next life. With that, I lunged towards a nearby pillar. Before my head could even touch it, a throng of maids and matrons seized me. No, miss. Clearly, they were the aggressors, yet they sought to drive me to despair. Help. Fetch a doctor. The miss has fainted. I shut my eyes tightly, the sound of Huar's exaggerated cries filling my ears as the maids and matrons hurriedly carried me back to the inner courtyard. My mother, with a resounding slap, struck Susu across the face and glared at the Crown Prince. Your Highness, your behavior is intolerable. My daughter, at least, is a lady of rank, and I shall submit a petition to the palace. Should His Majesty not intervene, I shall take my own life in the Golden Hall. The news of the Crown Prince's scandalous visit to the Chancellor's estate with a courtesan, leading to the Chancellor's daughter nearly taking her own life, spread throughout the streets in mere moments. Before my mother could reach the palace, the Crown Prince's mother, the esteemed concubine, dispatched a matron bearing gifts of tonics, urging me to recover and express my gratitude in the palace. while extolling the virtues of maintaining my composure and grace as a lady of noble birth. I found myself laughing in anger. To expect me to share a life with a courtesan? Surely, the esteemed concubine must be out of her mind. A few days later, my mother and I entered the palace to express our gratitude. Upon stepping into the residence of the virtuous consort, we beheld Su Nyang and the crown prince also present within the hall. Su Nyang was kneeling on the ground, her countenance radiating a pitiful charm. As I entered, the virtuous consort immediately admonished, "Hurry," and apologized to Zhao. Su Nyang then presented a cup of tea before me, raising it above her head. I humbly beseech my sister to forgive my transgressions. Su Nyang offers her apologies. Please partake of this tea. I glanced around, noticing several palace ladies eagerly awaiting the unfolding spectacle. I took a step back. As a mere daughter, I cannot accept the title of sister from Miss Su. My mother bore only one daughter, and I have no other siblings. Moreover, Miss Su's frequent apologies necessitate a clear explanation of her grievances. The crown prince, impatiently assisting Su Nyang to her feet, directed a scornful look at me. "I never expected you, Song Zhao, hailed as a noble young lady of the capital, to be so cunning, deliberately making things difficult for others over trivial matters. With Su Nyang so humble, kneeling and offering you tea, and both my mother and I present, you dare to be so arrogant. If you were to marry into the Eastern Palace, how much more would you torment Su Nyang?" The crown prince, with a fierce demeanor, seized the cup of tea and tossed it at my feet, the scalding liquid splattering against my hand, instantly causing it to swell and redden. He was taken aback by the tea's heat, momentarily stunned, though I bore no ill intent. My mother cried out in alarm, "Quick, summon the imperial physician." The virtuous consort was momentarily taken aback. She had intended to support the crown prince and humiliate me, the future daughter-in-law, to showcase her lofty status as the crown prince's mother. She had not anticipated that he would scald me. As the daughter of the prime minister, it would be a scandal to suffer such indignity in the consort's palace due to a courtesan. She urgently commanded, "Bring ice. Where is the physician? Why has he not arrived yet?" Just as chaos erupted, a voice announced, "His Majesty has arrived." The emperor, clad in his dragon robe, strode in, followed by my father, who, upon seeing me, immediately altered his expression. "Zhao, what's happened to your hand? How did you get burned like this?" With the emperor's entrance, the hall fell to its knees. Su Nyang trembled in fear, and the crown prince's face turned pale. The emperor, seated upon the throne, furrowed his brow. "What is the meaning of this? Virtuous consort, why has the prime minister's daughter suffered such grave injuries in your palace?" Suppressing the pain and with tear-filled eyes, I knelt. "I am Song Zhao, here to pay my respects to your majesty." Earlier, the crown prince, in a fit of anger, threw the teacup at my feet when I did not accept Su Nyang's offering, resulting in my hand being scalded. It was not the crown prince's intention. It is of no consequence. My father approached, grasping my hand with concern. "This cannot be. Zhao has never sustained even a scratch. How could she be so injured? If there are scars, what shall we do?" He then turned to the crown prince. "Your Highness, if my daughter has erred, you could simply inform me, allowing me, as her father, to discipline her. Why must you lay hands on a defenseless girl? Though she may lack talent, she has been raised with great care by my wife and me. To torment my daughter over a mere courtesan is truly disheartening." The observing concubines, sensing a shift in the atmosphere, began to stir the pot. "Your Highness, this is foolish. For the sake of a courtesan, you have gone to such lengths. Is it not enough that you caused a disturbance at the prime minister's residence? Such behavior is unbecoming of a crown prince. Miss Zhao has shared a childhood bond with you. You should not treat her thus." The emperor gazed at the crown prince, his expression grave. "Yanzhou, as crown prince, how can you act in such a manner for the sake of a courtesan? Your actions are profoundly disappointing. Look at yourself. Where is the demeanor of the crown prince?" The virtuous consort forced a smile. "Zhao, the crown prince was merely jesting with you. You grew up together, and you are already the designated crown princess. Once you are wed, he will surely be more considerate, will he not, Yanzhou?" The crown prince quickly realized his error, lowering his head. "Yes, in the future.
I shall treat Shawar well."
He then approached me, offering a gentle hand. "Zhao, I am truly sorry. It was all my fault. Please forgive me. I shall mend my ways. You know how soft-hearted I am. I merely felt pity for Sun Yang, given her unfortunate circumstances. I withdrew my hand, turning to kneel at the emperor's feet, tears brimming in my eyes. Your Majesty, the Crown Prince and Sun Yang share mutual affection, leading him to harbor resentment towards me on multiple occasions. Originally, your decree to unite our families was intended to foster goodwill, yet it has devolved into this chaos. I dare to request your Majesty to retract your command. Zhao does not wish to marry into the Eastern Palace. I seek a heart that is steadfast, to share a lifetime together. If the Crown Prince's heart belongs to Sun Yang, I am willing to facilitate his happiness. I implore your Majesty to rescind the edict. My parents hastily knelt. We beseech your Majesty to withdraw the decree. The virtuous consort sneered. Prime Minister, you agreed that Zhao would marry into the royal family. Though it was not formally decreed, it was nonetheless a verbal command from the emperor. Are you suggesting that the Song family defy the emperor's will? My father frowned, clearly on the verge of anger. I looked at the elevated virtuous consort and the crown prince beside her. My resolve solidified. I gently raised my head, determination etched upon my porcelain-like face, tears at the corners of my eyes, gazing at the emperor seated nearby, and spoke, fragile yet resolute. Your Majesty has spoken of uniting our families, yet has never decreed that I must marry into the Eastern Palace. In that case, I, Zhao, humbly request permission to enter the palace and serve. I ask for your Majesty's grace. As my words fell, everyone was rendered speechless. The virtuous consort shrieked, You dare? As a mere subject, you were granted a modicum of favor, yet you foolishly aspire to serve the emperor. The crown prince leapt to his feet. Song Zhao, you are engaged to me. How can you enter the palace to serve father? This is absurd. I met their gaze with a hint of indifference. There has been no formal decree of marriage. It is all mere rumor. What is there to prevent a daughter of the Song family from entering the palace? The emperor is wise and valiant. My father has always told me that to find a husband, one should seek a man like His Majesty, capable of securing peace through intellect and might. The emperor is a great hero. What is wrong with Zhao wishing to marry a hero? The virtuous consort scoffed. You are delusional. What is your status to dare covet the emperor? Among the observing concubines, one, a noble consort, who was a staunch rival of the virtuous consort, had remained silent until now but stepped forward. Your Majesty, I believe the Prime Minister's daughter entering the palace is not without merit. The imperial harem has been sparse for many years, and the lack of selection has led to fewer heirs. Miss Song is virtuous and well-educated, once praised by the late Empress as a pearl of the capital. She is the offspring of the Prime Minister, who was once an imperial tutor. In essence, she is of your generation, with a reputable lineage. She is indeed a fitting candidate to become a consort. Given the current vacancy in the harem and the scarcity of heirs, the ministers have long been discussing this matter. If Miss Song were to enter the palace as a consort, it could also silence the critics among the court. My mother, seeing this turn of events, looked at me with concern. I offered her a reassuring glance. The Song family was already in a precarious position, with no retreat. The Crown Prince was not a worthy partner. I must not allow the Song family to be tethered to him. A fool like him could easily drag the entire clan down. Rather than ultimately facing ruin, it would be wiser to take a gamble. Enter the palace as a consort. And who knows what fortune might arise in the future. The virtuous consort's face turned pale, never expecting matters to escalate to this point. She hastily interjected, Your Majesty, this must not happen. But I spoke again, bowing my head in supplication. I have long admired your Majesty. I implore you to grant me permission to enter the palace and serve. The emperor smiled slightly, turning his gaze toward me. Indeed, you are the daughter of the esteemed teacher. Your eloquence and courage are commendable. I shall not treat you lightly, and hereby bestow upon you the title of imperial concubine. Choose an auspicious day to enter the palace. With the emperor's decree, the matter was set in stone, and the expressions of those present in the grand hall varied greatly. The virtuous concubine and the crown prince wore ashen faces, while the other concubines secretly calculated their own standings, for in terms of lineage, none within the palace could surpass me. Should I bear the emperor a son, the future would undoubtedly change. Even the virtuous concubine, of merely a fifth-rank official's background, had only gained her power over the six palaces due to her bearing of the crown prince after the demise of the previous empress. Her domineering demeanor had earned her many detractors within the palace. The gazes of the other concubines toward me transformed, filled with a newfound intensity. As I exited the palace with my parents, the decree of my elevation reached the Prime Minister's residence, and in an instant, the Song family basked in unprecedented glory. Ladies from various households hurried to offer their congratulations and cultivate relationships. My entry into the palace was set for 3 months hence, and soon after, the Emperor's gifts arrived at the Prime Minister's residence. Under the watchful eyes of all, the eunuchs beamed, declaring, "Your Highness, the Emperor has instructed that within these gifts lies a precious jade ointment, an exceptional tribute that ensures complete healing without leaving a scar when applied to wounds." There were but 2 bottles, and the Emperor commanded that they be presented solely for the use of the imperial concubine, while gold and silver vessels were commonplace. This jade ointment was a rarity, making the gathered ladies and noble women green with envy. The imperial concubine had yet to step into the palace, and was already favored thus. The Emperor's regard for her was evident. When had one ever witnessed such attention from the Emperor toward the affairs of the harem? The lady's fortune truly was remarkable. Ladies who were on friendly terms with my mother sat together, relishing the misfortune, gossiping quietly that on the day we left the palace, the virtuous concubine had flown into a rage, severely punishing that Su Nian. The virtuous concubine, accustomed to her arrogance as the crown prince's birth mother, could hardly accept that a young girl like me would overshadow her upon entering the palace. She raised a ruckus with the Emperor. "Your Majesty, I bore the crown prince, yet was never conferred the title of imperial concubine. That Song Zhao is but a child. How can she enter the palace as an imperial concubine?" The Emperor's face darkened. "How dare you speak? The crown prince is turned out this way under your tutelage. I do not pursue your accountability nor demote your rank, and yet you still desire to be named imperial concubine?" Xie Yanzhou knelt, oblivious to his wrongdoing, insisting, "Father, that Song Zhao is merely a vain and willful person, throwing tantrums at the slightest discontent. I simply took Su Nian as a concubine, and she refuses to enter the Eastern Palace, publicly clinging to you, father. Such a fickle person cannot be a concubine." The Emperor thundered, "Silence, fool. How did I bear such a dim-witted son? Song Zhao is the granddaughter of the Duke of the State and the daughter of a prime minister, coddled since childhood. You dare to publicly humiliate the Song family for a courtesan? Do you think this matter will simply fade away? You act recklessly, yet expect me to clean up your mess. Get out, return, and reflect in solitude. Only emerge when you have gained clarity." With that, the Emperor swept away, and the virtuous concubine, gritting her teeth, turned to Su Nian. "What benefit do you gain from provoking your father? I care not how you do it, but swiftly send her away from the Eastern Palace. Your mother will find you a more suitable noblewoman. Such a choice is in your best interest." Su Nian grasped the crown prince's sleeve tightly. "Your Highness, I do not wish to leave you. I shall cause no more trouble. I only wanted to apologize to Miss Song, hoping to ease her ire, yet she acted thus." She begged, "Please do not send Su Nian away, aside from you. I have no one else to rely on." Tears streamed down her face as she leaned into Xie Yanzhou's embrace, weeping inconsolably. The crown prince, filled with pity, held her closely, turning to the virtuous concubine. "I merely wish to take Su Nian as a concubine, regardless of who becomes the crown princess. If one cannot even accommodate a mere concubine, how can one befit the master of the Eastern Palace?" The virtuous concubine, exasperated, slammed her hand on the table. "Absurd! Have you lost your mind? This wretched girl has already caused a stir before the Prime Minister's residence. You still protect her? Who would wish to marry you with her around?" Yet, when the virtuous concubine once more invited the noble women of the capital to admire the flowers in the palace, there were still opportunistic individuals who, looking exquisite and charming, flocked to the invitation. The crown prince, likely heeding the virtuous concubine's words and faced with the Emperor's confinement, tempered his demeanor. After a month, he finally acknowledged his mistakes and was granted release. My hand had yet to heal, Had it not been for the virtuous concubine specifically sending a personal maid to request my presence, I would not have entered the palace. Now that I had arrived, I sat in the pavilion at the center of the lake, enjoying the flowers and scenery with a few noble women. Miss Song seemed particularly eager, as if she could not wait to enter the palace as imperial concubine, hastily arriving before the auspicious day. It was Su Nian, accompanied by a palace maid, who walked into the pavilion while making veiled remarks. A cold laugh echoed in my heart. I had not sought trouble with her, yet she approached me. The matron beside me stepped forward. "Mistress, be cautious with your words. Miss Song has been officially named imperial concubine by the emperor. Your status is but that of a humble concubine in the Eastern Palace. To not pay your respects to a noble woman and to speak insolently is unacceptable." Su Nian's expression darkened. "What are you?" "Merely a servant. I am the beloved of the crown prince. How dare you insult me?" "Someone silence her." The matron, unflinching, replied, "I am a lady-in-waiting to the emperor. I possess my own rank. Do you dare to lay a hand on me?" Su Nian, with an air of triumph, retorted, "Why should I fear? You are but a servant, trying to assert dominance before me. I tell you, I am the crown prince's concubine. You a mere servant. Do not show me proper respect, and I shall punish you." I lifted my teacup and took a gentle sip. "Someone silence her." No sooner had I spoken than a resounding slap echoed as my hand connected with her cheek. She was momentarily stunned, covering her face as she exclaimed, "Song Zhao, how dare you strike me?" I regarded her with cold indifference, elevated above her. "What of it if I strike you? Even the matron, who serves the emperor, has never been struck, yet you, in your audacity, wish to punish her. Since you are so keen on distinctions, why did you not pay your respects upon seeing me? Drag her out, and continue to silence her." What is the meaning of this commotion? The crown prince, accompanied by several young noblemen, suddenly appeared outside the pavilion. Su Nian rushed toward him in tears. "Your Highness, Song Zhao struck me. Her matron disrespected me. I merely disciplined a servant, and she retaliated. Such audacity. And she has not yet entered the palace. What fate awaits her once she does?" Xie Yanzhou glared at me coldly. "Is that so? Which servant dares to be so bold as to show disrespect even to me?" The matron stepped forward. "Your Highness, it was I, she, a mere concubine of the Eastern Palace, has offended the imperial concubine and breached palace regulations. Had she not been spared from immediate punishment, it would have been a testament to the imperial concubine's mercy." The crown prince, witnessing the matron's sudden change in demeanor, quickly apologized. "Quickly, offer your apologies to the matron." He turned to admonish Su Nian. Yet, she suddenly clutched her stomach. "Your Highness, I am in great pain. Summon the imperial physician." One of her palace maids pointed to the ground, exclaiming, "Ah, there is blood." Su Nian's face turned ashen. "Your Highness, my monthly cycle has not arrived for a month. Could it be that I am with child?" The crown prince's expression shifted. "With child? Quickly, call the physician." Su Nian leaned closely against the crown prince, pleading, "Your Highness, you must take responsibility for me and our child. Song Zhao intends to harm both me and the unborn. Your Highness, she seeks to endanger the heir." The crown prince's face darkened as he bellowed, "See Song Zhao." The noble women, terrified, fell silent, while the young nobleman quietly advised, "Your Highness, perhaps it would be prudent to allow the physician to examine her first. After all, she is the emperor's personally appointed imperial concubine." The crown prince waved his sleeve dismissively. "She is just a concubine. Does my father value a woman over his grandson? See Song Zhao." I rose to my feet. "I would like to see who dares to lay a hand on me." The matron stepped forward protectively. "Your Highness, please reconsider. It would be wiser to prioritize the physician's examination." The crown prince pushed the matron aside. "You protect her. I will show her the consequences." With that, he struck me across the face. I endeavored to evade him, yet I was still struck, my entire being toppling backward, perilously close to the lake. A sense of dread enveloped me, and in my panic, I desperately sought to grasp onto something. However, before I could hit the ground, I found myself cradled in a man's embrace, the scent of dragon saliva emanating from him, anchoring my wandering thoughts. The crowd around us fell to their knees, exclaiming, Long live the emperor. My face, swollen and bruised, was about to bow down, but the emperor steadied me, his gaze sweeping across my profile, the pallor of my skin rendering the slap I had received particularly harrowing. His expression shifted in an instant, furrowing his brow as he inquired, "Are you all right?" With tears welling in my eyes, I replied, "It is of no consequence. However, please summon a physician to attend to Miss Sue, lest the crown prince worry." The emperor raised his eyes towards the crown prince. Although Zhao has yet to enter the palace, he has already received his title, thus considering her your mother. As the crown prince, how could you lay a hand upon your elder? Xia Yanzhou, have your studies sunk into the depths of ignorance? The crown prince knelt in silence, unable to utter a word. At that moment, the physician hurriedly arrived, and I urged, "Physician, please first examine Miss Sue's pulse. She claims to be with child and has just experienced some bleeding, which cannot be taken lightly." The physician promptly complied, setting down the medicine pillow to check Miss Sue's pulse. After a brief moment, he lifted his head, his expression somewhat troubled. "I am uncertain which physician diagnosed her pregnancy, for the young lady has merely experienced her monthly cycle and is not with child." Miss Sue screamed,
"Impossible."
"How could I not be pregnant?" The emperor raised a hand, and the physician withdrew. He cast his gaze upon the commotion caused by Miss Sue, the words punishment by death nearly escaping his lips, yet I swiftly grasped his arm. "Your Majesty, Miss Sue is now considered the daughter-in-law of the virtuous consort. If she is found lacking, let her sister take her back for proper guidance. Why tarnish your bond with the crown prince over a trivial woman?" The emperor furrowed his brow for a moment, seemingly granting the crown prince one last chance, and spoke in a deep voice, "Take her to the virtuous consort's palace for proper education. If she cannot be reformed, she need not return." The crown prince, having lost his virtue, committed an act of disrespect against a consort and was confined to the eastern palace, forbidden from leaving without my edict. As the crowd dispersed, the emperor surveyed my swollen face and sighed softly. "I had intended to bestow upon you an esteemed position, yet it has only brought you trouble. Thus, the fault lies with me. In light of this, I shall grant you a martial female official for your protection, who will safeguard you from harm in my absence." I smiled gently. "With your Majesty's protection, I fear no one would dare to harm me." The emperor grasped my hand. "If that is the case, let another auspicious date be chosen for you to enter the palace before the upcoming Mid-Autumn Festival. Proclaim my decree. The pepper chamber has been vacant for too long. Upon your entrance, it shall become yours." The pepper chamber is the residence closest to the emperor's quarters, once occupied by the Empress Dowager. Regrettably, less than a month after the emperor ascended the throne, the late empress was slain by an assassin, and since then, the pepper chamber remained unoccupied, until now, when it has been granted to me. The eunuchs were left astonished as they received the decree. "Yes, your Majesty. The consort is to enter the palace and reside in the pepper chamber." Once this news spread, it sent shockwaves throughout the 6 palaces, a privilege typically reserved for the Empress Dowager. It was rumored that the virtuous consort had shattered numerous items within the palace and summoned the concubines to discuss matters, preparing to make my life difficult once I entered the palace. Yet, none of the concubines were foolish. Who would dare oppose a consort with substantial maternal influence, especially one currently in the emperor's favor? As I was new to the palace and had yet to bear children, I posed no threat to the lives of the concubines. Even if I were to become the empress, it would not greatly impact them. Conversely, the virtuous consort had long abused her power after giving birth to the crown prince. Oppressing those concubines she found displeasing, thus making her quite detestable. Perhaps, upon my entry into the palace, I could even temper the virtuous consort and alleviate the grievances of the others. Enraged, the virtuous consort returned to the palace and vented her frustrations on Miss Sue. "If it weren't for you, that Song Zhao would have long since married into the Eastern Palace. How could you dare compete with me for the Emperor's affection? It is all your fault that my good fortune is thwarted. The Emperor's favorite has always been me. How could it possibly be Song Zhao? I am the Crown Prince's biological mother. I am the one who should be Empress." With this thought, she unleashed her wrath upon Miss Sue. And by the end of the month, Miss Sue had been tormented to the brink of despair. At last, the day of my entry into the palace arrived. The emperor arranged for a half set of the empress's regalia to welcome me. On the second day of the wedding night, All the concubines came to pay their respects, and the crown prince was permitted to leave the Eastern Palace for a day to come to the Pepper Chamber and greet me, his newly titled mother. The emperor looked at him and said, "Last time you disrespected the consort, you have yet to apologize. Take this opportunity to kneel and bow, serving tea to your mother in contrition." The virtuous consort interjected, wringing her handkerchief. "Your Majesty, Yennefer is the crown prince. Can the heir apparent kneel and bow to her? Is she capable of enduring such humiliation?" The crown prince's expression darkened, and he quickly interrupted her, taking the teacup and kneeling before me. "Please, mother, have some tea. It was all Yenjo's fault. Please do not take it to heart." Under the emperor's watchful gaze, I accepted the teacup, smiling brightly. "All of that is in the past. Mother will not hold a grudge. In the future, if there are younger brothers or sisters as the elder brother, Yennefer must set a good example." The emperor, pleased by my words, took my hand. "There are few children in the palace. Yenjo has no brothers, so naturally, you must bear several siblings to bring life to the palace." The virtuous consort was enraged, her face contorted. She clutched Miss Sue's waist tightly, originally intending to use her to vex me, yet found herself infuriated instead. Miss Sue let out a cry and fell to the ground, prompting the virtuous consort to cover her mouth and exclaim, "Oh dear, if you are unwell, why do you insist on following? Your Majesty, the crown prince has grown. Yet the Eastern Palace lacks a mistress. Why not select a day to choose a proper consort for the crown prince?" I observed that the legitimate daughter of the Duke Estate would be quite suitable, as well as the second daughter of the minister, who is gentle and virtuous. Either would make an appropriate side consort. Her scheming was nearly bursting forth, and I smiled. Virtuous consort. The crown prince is the heir apparent. The selection of a crown princess must not be hasty. The legitimate daughter of the Duke of State is indeed admirable, but she is not suitable for the Eastern Palace. The virtuous consort scoffed. How is she unsuitable? The crown prince is the future emperor. The world belongs to him. Who cannot he marry? I raised an eyebrow, regarding her as a fool, unworthy of being considered a rival. If the mother family of the crown princess held military power upon the crown prince's ascension, it would certainly become a liability for the throne. Would the emperor leave such a hidden danger for the dynasty? The emperor's countenance darkened. Yesterday, the grand princess entered the palace and recommended the legitimate daughter of the director of the National Academy. I find her quite suitable, knowledgeable and well-mannered, worthy to be bestowed as the crown princess. I smiled slightly and replied, "The eldest daughter of Lord Liu, I have had the pleasure of meeting before. Indeed, she comes from a prestigious family, as her reputation suggests. If she were to become the crown princess, it would indeed be a blessing." The emperor found this agreeable and immediately ordered the drafting of a decree, but the virtuous consort interrupted him. "No. The crown princess is to be the future mother of the nation. How can we select the daughter of a mere third-rank official?" The emperor's countenance turned serious. "Are you dissatisfied with my decision, virtuous consort?" The emperor's anger was palpable, and the virtuous consort trembled in fear, kneeling. "I dare not." I glanced up to see the crown prince glaring at me, for the daughter of Lord Liu, Liu Qianin, was indeed a noble lady, yet regrettably had a notoriously foul temper, being the granddaughter of the grand princess. Everyone knew that the grand princess's beloved daughter had passed away young, and she doted on this granddaughter more than her own. The crown prince had previously encountered Liu Qianin and was aware of her true nature. Thus he glared at me, yet dared not voice his anger. The crown prince's marriage was settled, and seeing his compliance, the emperor swiftly issued a decree lifting his confinement and selecting a date for the wedding. On the second day of their marriage, the crown prince, accompanied by his new bride, came to pay their respects to the emperor and me. Liu Qianin appeared bashful as I bestowed upon her a jade ruby, saying, "Just yesterday, your Majesty remarked that the crown prince and crown princess are a match made in heaven. Now, witnessing your harmonious union brings joy to this mother, the crown princess. Please encourage the crown prince to not be swayed by beauty and instead to hasten in producing offspring for the royal family." Liu Qianin proudly tilted her head and responded, "Yes, the daughter-in-law will heed this command." Upon hearing the words "endless progeny," the emperor grasped my hand tightly and announced to all present a joyous tidings. Yesterday, the beloved consort had felt unwell during the banquet. The imperial physician was summoned to take her pulse and proclaimed that she was with child. Henceforth, harmony must prevail in the inner palace, and no troubles should be brought upon the consort to trouble her heart. Seated among the assembly, the virtuous consort nearly ground her silver tooth to dust. She was already vexed that the crown prince and his wife had come to pay their respects to me first, and now, upon learning of my pregnancy, her ire was further ignited. Yet, the hall of the peppered chambers was encircled as tightly as a drum, with the emperor's loyal subjects surrounding me. Whatever schemes she might concoct were, alas, futile. Since the crown prince wed Lu Qianin, the eastern palace had known no peace. Should the crown prince dare to spend a night away from her side, Lu Qianin would storm into the quarters of the concubines, dragging them out to berate them. After several such incidents, no concubine dared to share the crown prince's bed. Regardless of which concubine he visited, they would kneel and plead for him to depart, weeping that if he stayed the night, their lives would be forfeit come dawn. The crown prince, incensed, returned to the crown princess's quarters and erupted into a furious quarrel, even resorting to violence. It was said that that very night, the crown princess experienced complications, nearly losing her child. The grand princess entered the palace the following day in a frenzy, summoning the imperial physicians to ensure the safety of her granddaughter's pregnancy. Since the advent of the new mistress in the eastern palace, Sun Yang had relocated back from the virtuous consort's palace. Yet, emerging from one perilous situation, she found herself ensnared in another. Lu Qianin was the first to disapprove of her presence. Even without sharing the crown prince's bed, she sought to create trouble for Sun Yang. Under Lu Qianin's oppressive influence, the concubines of the Eastern Palace dared not approach the crown prince, save for Sun Yang, who, bold by nature, frequently sought the crown prince's company. Previously, the crown princess delighted in summoning Sun Yang to stand in submission, compelling her to perform the duties of a maid, even requiring her to kneel outside the palace doors at night. Listening to the intimate exchanges between her and the crown prince, a vigil that lasted the entire night. Sun Yang could no longer endure such humiliation, yet, cowed by the crown princess's authority, she was left with no choice but to suffer in silence. With the crown princess's pregnancy precariously hanging in the balance, the physician advised her to rest in bed, thereby alleviating her capacity to trouble Sun Yang further. Sighing in relief, Sun Yang believed she had found her opportunity. Over the course of 6 months, she plotted to regain the crown prince's affection, stealthily embedding herself within the crown princess's chamber. That day, as I was in labor, I faintly heard unusual sounds from outside. The emperor, upon noticing the commotion, comforted me, urging me to focus on my delivery while he attended to the matters at hand. After a day of turmoil, I gave birth to a pair of dragon and phoenix twins, filling the palace with jubilation. The emperor, in his elation, promptly declared his intention to elevate me to empress. However, discerning an undercurrent of unease behind the joyous countenances of those gathered, I grasped the emperor's hand and inquired, "Your Majesty, what troubles you?" Frowning, he observed my condition and ultimately revealed the disheartening news. The crown princess had passed away. I was taken aback. It turned out that the crown princess, having carried her child for 7 months, had endured a tumultuous pregnancy fraught with peril. Despite her efforts to sustain the life within her, after consuming a bowl of medicinal herbs that evening, she experienced severe abdominal pain, accompanied by profuse bleeding. The physician, upon arrival, attributed her condition to food poisoning. It was discovered that a potent abortifacient had been surreptitiously mixed into her medicine, an ingredient sourced from a brothel. The physician warned that the effects of this drug were dire. Having consumed it while 7 months pregnant, the crown princess could not withstand its potency, ultimately resulting in the delivery of a stillborn child, leading to her untimely demise that very night. Enraged, the emperor ordered a thorough investigation, and within mere moments, the trail led to Sun Yang, who was afforded no opportunity to defend herself and was summarily executed. Yet, the grand princess, mourning the loss of her granddaughter, refused to relent. She allied with the Minister of National Studies to bring the crown prince before the court, condemning him for his favoritism towards concubines and the neglect of his wife, alleging that such actions had provided the opportunity for the foul deed against the crown princess. For 3 consecutive days, the court was ensnared in tumult over this matter. The emperor, increasingly exasperated, found himself on the brink of anger, while the Grand Princess lamented, weeping and threatening to petition the ancestral temple of the late emperor. The clamor to depose the crown prince grew deafening. The emperor, already disillusioned with him, found no solace in the sight of the twins, growing even more impatient to avoid his presence. At last, 5 days later, the emperor issued an edict to depose the crown prince, enumerating his transgressions over the years, demoting him to commoner status and banishing him to Danzhou, never to return to the capital. Upon hearing this news, the virtuous consort descended into madness, her behavior becoming erratic as she attempted to invade the emperor's imperial residence. Consequently, she was stripped of her rank and relegated to the cold palace. As the twins celebrated their first month, it coincided perfectly with my coronation as empress. The palace had regained its festive spirit, and I sat in the peppered chambers, receiving the congratulations of the ladies of the court. The emperor, radiant, entered with both children in his arms, appearing scarcely older than their mother, as if the arrival of new life had rejuvenated his youth. He publicly announced the designation of our son as crown prince and our daughter as Princess Changlo, granting them the privileges of princely status. Seated upon the phoenix throne, I surveyed the bowing figures before me. Despite the tumultuous journey, I remained the rightful empress at the center of it all. As the years flowed on, with the palace intrigues ever persistent, I found myself unperturbed, having long since cast aside all fears. The end. Thank you for listening. And until we meet again in the next tale.